Number 10. Hot Rocks. Hot Rocks comes to us from Marvel's amalgamated superhero world known as Warp World from Infinity Warp. Infinity Wars? Infinity Wars, I think, or Infinity War. So many wars happen in infinities. This is true in Marvel. This world was created by Gamora, who using the Infinity Stones folded the universe in half, purging the souls of its superpowered community. One of the awesome mashups we got from Warp World was Hot Rocks, a combination of Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, and Benjamin Grimm, aka the Fantastic Four's The Thing. Hot Rocks appears to have powers that paid tribute to his namesake. He was made of rocks, and he could get hot. Benjamin Storm, as he was known, was the brother of Reed Storm. Together, these two made up the superheroic duo known as the Terrific Two.
Number 9. Iron Lantern. From the Amalgam comic universe, Iron Lantern is of course a millionaire who is in charge of Stark Aircraft. While he was working on a flight simulator, it straight up took off and flew him somewhere. Quite the simulator that is, not too shabby. Stark crash landing on the ground, injuring Stark. He realizes he was brought to a crashed alien spaceship. The spaceship belonging to none other than Roman Sur, who died before getting a chance to talk to Hal Stark. Not being in the best condition after the rocky landing, Hal started working with newfound tech on a new suit. This Green Lantern upgrade of a suit saved his life for sure, but it also gave him the power to create anything out of this green energy. He used a battery that reminded him of a lantern to do so. He then went on to fight the aliens that had shot down Roman Sur and continued fighting enemies such as Madame Sapphire and Mandarin Estro.
Number 8. Deadeye. Deadeye is from the Amalgam Comics universe. Yeah, I'm not just going to abandon Amalgam, but I cannot deny that there are lots of mashup worlds out there that deserve to be explored in addition to Amalgam. Deadeye is a combination of Deadshot from DC and Bullseye from Marvel, both of which are known for being villains, and also known for being great shots. Deadeye is the one responsible for shooting out Dare the Terminator's eye, and was killed in the Amalgam universe by the assassin Cat's Eye, aka Elektra Kyle. Previous to this, he attempted to team up with fellow villainous assassins Lethal and Wired, working for the big boss known as Big Question, in an attempt to get revenge on their mutual enemies, of which Cat's Eye was one. Unfortunately, she got the jump on him before he could take her out.
Number 7. Thor and Groot. Thank the gods of the universe that Jason Aaron exists. And thank them once again that he wrote Thors, the 2015 miniseries during Secret Wars that followed the exploits of God King Doom's personal security force, which is basically a whole bunch of different Thors. Among this Thor core are some really crazy awesome combo Thors, but what I think deserves a bit of attention on the big screen was a combination of Thor and the denizen of Planet X, Groot. While you don't really get to see Thor Groot in action a whole lot during the series, we do get a few panels of him being exactly what you'd expect. It's adult Groot with blue glowing parts that look similar to Ultimate Thor's armor and with a really awesome vegetation cape. Now in the MCU, Thor and Groot do have this weird indirect connection. Groot literally sacrifices his arm to give Thor his new weapon, Stormbreaker. I can't help but wonder what it'd be like if when Groot becomes an adult again, he wields that hammer or maybe like makes another similar kind of thing. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. In fact, there's a very, very large chance it never will happen, but what I am saying is that I would like to see it. That's all. Number 6. Iron Man and Thor. With all the times I have talked about Warp World, I have not had the chance to talk about my favorite warp from it. Stark Odin's son, the son of Howard Odin, the chieftain executive of the Aesir of Asgard, was an ambitious but arrogant god who dreamed of becoming an ironclad warrior. His arrogance drove his father to banish him from Asgard to learn some humility. He landed on Earth not knowing how he got there or who he actually was completely, but he had extended knowledge of the technology of his people. Using his intellect and incredible drive, Stark went from nothing to the 5th richest man in Europe in 5 years, building up a tech industrial company under the name Sigurd Stark. Now while in a drunken depression, he wandered into a strange forested glaive, only to be attacked and taken prisoner by Dark Elves, who forced him to make weapons with Eitri the Weaponsmith. Can you guess what happened next? The two created a super Iron Man armor infused with rune magic, and Eitri revealed a warhammer made of cold iron that would supercharge the armor and restore Stark's strength. Forcing his broken body to move and lift the hammer, a bolt of lightning struck the workshop and Sigurd Stark rose once again, clad in the rune-inscribed armor of the Iron Hammer. Now tell me you don't want to see that in a movie, and I'll tell you that you're a liar. Number 5. Doctor Strange and Loki? Donny Cates' Doctor Strange run eventually has the god of mischief, Loki, taking over as Earth's Sorcerer Supreme. And it both makes sense and is a complete perversion of reality all at the same time. Loki carries his iconic horned helmet, but now dons the Cloak of Levitation and hangs out in the Sanctum Sanctorum. It feels wrong, but it looks cool. It makes sense, but also just no. In all honesty though, it is a really cool shakeup that leads to a kind of incredibly awesome moment when Strange takes back the title and also re-imprisons the Void. In the MCU, Loki is dealing with a lot of time foolery and alternate versions, and I can't help but want this Sorcerer Supreme Loki to at least make an appearance. Number 4. Batman and the Joker. By this point, I would be incredibly surprised if you hadn't at least heard of the Batman Who Laughs. He is a demonic version of the Dark Knight that hails from a dark universe where Joker is killed, but not before he infects the body and soul of Bruce Wayne with Joker toxin. The result is a Batman-Joker combo deal who sports a long black leather jacket, a long tongue, a bloody face, plenty of spiked clothing, and a whole squad of undead Robins. With the popularity of the Dark Knight's death metal stories and the Batman Who Laughs himself, I'm sure he is bound to make some kind of big screen debut at some point in time, and I for one hope I will be alive for it.
Number 3. Dr. Doomsday. From the Amalgam universe, Dr. Doomsday is rather terrifying. So Victor Von Doom would often experiment with cosmic ray shielding, right? He would set up camp on Earth in a safe base. Meanwhile, the future challengers of the Fantastic Four monitored the progress from a space shuttle. Now, of course, not being the coolest guy ever, Victor Von Doom deactivated the shielding on this ship and took off when it crash landed. So Doom was curious about Doomsday. A lot of Doom in this one, eh? One day during an examination, one of Doomsday's bone fragments shot out into Victor Von Doom's face. Oopsie daisies. So the DNA started to make its way in and gave us the lovely Dr. Doomsday, who is actually responsible for American Girl's death. I like the look of this guy a lot. He just looks like he's on skis, the green hood, spiked face, just looks like the definition of trouble.
Number 2, Moon Squirrel. Moon Squirrel also comes to us from Warp World. She is by far the cutest and coolest Warp World hero, in my humble opinion. Moon Squirrel is Lunine Laugh-A-Green. Like Moon Girl, she is recognized as being one of the smartest people on the planet with a genius level intellect, especially when it comes to tech and inventions. When young Lunine befriended a giant squirrel who had undergone pterogenesis, so I guess an inhuman squirrel, her life was changed forever. She adopted the mantle Moon Squirrel, taking inspiration from a name her classmates referred to her by, Moon Girl, and became a hero. She's a combination of Marvel heroes Moon Girl, aka Lunella Lafayette, and Squirrel Girl, aka Doreen Green.
And finally, number 1, Soldier Supreme. Okay, for this last one, I would pay a stupid amount of money to see this in the theater. Soldier Supreme makes his debut in, you guessed it, Warp World. So of course he has the combined powers of Captain America and Doctor Strange, which you probably guessed at this point, which already makes him one of the most badass dudes ever. Also appearing in Infinity Wars issue 3, weak and small Steven Rogers volunteered in a US military experiment to become a super soldier. Sounds familiar so far? Right on. The serum, however, was just a cover for mystic rituals. Spooky wookie. So he got some pretty amazing powers from it, leading the Howling Commandos of Hogarth alongside Dum Dum Fury and Bucky Wong.
Number 10, Super Soldier. Clark Kent of the Amalgam universe is a combination of Superman and Captain America and has a very similar origin story to good old Steven Rogers, as he was injected with the Super Soldier formula during World War II. However, there is a little fun twist thrown in there as he was also subjected to solar radiation. Now this fun mix of chemicals and light gave Clark all the powers of not only Captain America, but also Superman for some reason, so that means he can fly, is super strong and fast, has heat vision, and just, you know, a whole mess more. By March of 1942, Super Soldier had pretty much single-handedly won the war until Ultra Metallo, a giant robot sent by Lex Luthor, appeared on the scene. True to his Captain America half, he sacrificed himself to take down the giant robot, and the two were submerged in icy waters. And then 50 years later, Clark's body was discovered by the Judgment League Avengers, and after it was thawed out, he became their de facto leader. Now it wasn't too much long after that he discovered Lex Luthor was still alive and well, and he had partnered with Hydra and revived Metallo, but Clark was able to easily take them both down.
Number 9, Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy popped up in his own Amalgam one-shot, but also got a team-up issue as well following that. In his team-up issue, we saw him joined by the Legion of Galactic Guardians 2099. That team is a huge combination of DC's Legion of Superheroes and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, in addition to their 2099 timeline. So, That was a pretty big team up. Spider-Boy himself is a combo of Spider-Man and Superboy. In the Amalgam universe, he was the attempted clone of Super Soldier created by Project Cadmus. But the cloning process went slightly wrong, and instead, the clone that would become Spider-Boy awoke prematurely, becoming conscious at a younger age than Cadmus had initially expected.
Number 7. AQUA-MARINER. Making his first appearance in the Amalgam universe, starting in Challengers of the Fantastic, AQUA-MARINER, aka Arthur Mackenzie, is able to breathe in and out of water, of course, but he also has wings on his ankles that allow him to fly. Yeah, and you thought having Heelys was cool? Get out of here. Wings? You'd never be late, not once. And if that wasn't cool enough, he's also great at handling his grappling trident. From Marine Mystery number 1, we find Prince Namor as the lone survivor of the underwater city of Poseidonus. And after the loss of his wife and son, Arthur Mackenzie went to Surface World where he would protect the oceans from further harm. And with the coral reefs disappearing more and more every minute, that would be a pretty good time for Arthur Mackenzie to pop out in our world, I would say.
Number 6. Diamond Patch. Diamond Patch is the amalgamation of Emma Frost and Wolverine, and as such comes to us from Marvel's Warp World. He boasts of strong diamond claws instead of adamantium coated ones, and often wears white like the mutant White Queen Emma Frost. He also sports an eye patch, his look seemingly also inspired by Wolverine's undercover identity during his time in Madripoor. Patch. No one would have ever guessed that it was secretly Wolverine. Looks just like him. Hence the code name Diamond Patch. Diamond Patch is also known for being a powerful telepath as well as for his business acumen.
Number 5. Arachnite. You find some pretty awesome things in Warp Worlds. Arachnite is among one of my favorites. And as you may have guessed by now, Arachnite is the amalgamation of Spider-Man and Moon Knight. Pretty badass. Making his first appearance in Infinity Wars number 3, Peter was actually the successful owner and operator of Parker Industries, with his side gig being the vigilante Arachnite. His best friend at the time being Harry Russell. You can probably see where I'm going here. Harry's father was none other than Norman Russell, aka the Goblin by Night, brought on by a curse that turns him into a bloodthirsty monster. Wow, sounds like quite the handful there. One night, Peter got a glimpse of this happening and followed Norman to Central Park, and you guessed it, he of course kicked his ass.
Number 4. Big Question. Big Question comes to us from the Amalgam universe. He's a combination of DC's Riddler, aka Edward Nygma, and Marvel's Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk. Hence his name, Edward Enigma Fisk. Big Question appeared as a villain in both the Assassins and the Dare the Terminator comics out of Amalgam. He was a corrupt politician whose office sat near the top of Arkham Tower in New Gotham City, just below Dr. Strangefate's residence. Big Question is the enemy of Dare the Terminator in the Amalgam universe and attempts to rule New Gotham City with an iron fist, though he is eventually taken down by Cat's Eye and the Gotham Bugle. Number 3. Bruce Wayne. Colonel Bruce Wayne, that is. And don't you forget it. Bruce Wayne is not actually Batman here. He's combined with another hero from the Marvel Universe who also prefers to go by his name alone. Yep. Nick Fury. Bruce Wayne of Amalgam is also dating another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent known as Black Bat, a combination of Felicia Hardy and Barbara Gordon, which, I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like an amazing combination. Bruce Wayne first appeared in the Amalgam comic Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we learned that he is out for revenge. When he was young, his spy parents were killed by Green Skull of Hydra, and he used his money and influence to take over S.H.I.E.L.D. so that he can use the resources of the organization to get revenge.
Number 2. Dark Claw. Now speaking of Bruce Wayne, let's talk about Dark Claw, a combination of Batman and Wolverine named Logan Wayne. With a similar backstory to Batman, Wayne witnesses his parents' murder at a very young age and was then sent off to live with his uncle in Alberta. However, this also didn't last very long because his uncle was also murdered and Wayne was sent to live in a home run by nuns. When he was finally old enough, he left them and enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force alongside a man named Creed H. Quinn. And the two of them were then subjected to the Weapon X program, aka the Canadian Super Soldier program. It was there that the Wolverine half of this character came to be, as it was here he learned of his metamutant powers, and he had his bones fused with adamantium. Quinn, however, was not so lucky because through the course of the experiments he grew more and more insane and would eventually become the Hyena, a combination of Sabretooth and the Joker, and Darkclaw's greatest enemy. Equipped with all the powers of Wolverine and the vast knowledge of Batman, Darkclaw is just an awesome character.
Number 10. Trigger Twins. North Star Trigger is one of the Trigger Twins who are known as the fastest guns in the West. They are part of the Old West area of the Amalgam universe. North Star and his sister Aurora come from the Generation Hex Amalgam comic. North Star himself seems to possess the power to fly, but it's unclear if he has any other powers, besides being a super fast shot, alongside his sister. Though it can be assumed that both North Star and Aurora likely possess at least some version of their powers here, but still, Perhaps just they're dulled down a lot, and obviously not all of their powers they usually have, they will have. Still, being the fastest shot and being able to fly even short distances in the Wild West would still be considered pretty impressive, even if the list just ends there. The Trigger Twins are a combination of the Bobier twins, Aurora Jean-Marie and Northstar Jean-Paul, from Marvel and DC's old Western characters, the Trigger Twins, Thomas and Tad. Number 9. Dare the Terminator. Dare the Terminator is a combination character of Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke from DC, and Marvel's Daredevil, Matt Murdock. Although neither character is female, it seems as though there was a sprinkling in of Elektra, at least in terms of the character design here. I don't know if it's just me, but this design does seem to take some inspiration from Elektra. Dare the Terminator is the sworn enemy of Enigma Fisk, a corrupt mayor. Enigma Fisk once captured Dare and had little devil horns surgically grafted onto her head to make her more resemble the nickname given her of Daredevil. Dare is blind, but is also missing an eye, which was shot out by the villain Deadeye. And I know this is the most powerful list, so in case you were wondering what kind of powers we're talking about a lot of skilled fighting and assassin stuff. Because, you know, Daredevil and Deathstroke. And friends, before we move on to our next spot, just a quick reminder, if you want more Amalgam lists like this list, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 7. Dr. Strangefate. Strangefate is the combination of both the big two's mystical heroes, Dr. Fate from DC and Dr. Strange from Marvel, though weirdly enough his true name happens to be Charles Xavier. Strangefate was one of the few to survive the destruction of the Amalgam universe when threatened by a character known as Access. He hid himself deep within Doctor Strange's mind in order to live on, and after influencing Doctor Strange, ended up back in the Amalgam universe, which Doctor Strange preserved and kept safe in a pocket dimension, mostly to contain the irksome Dr. Strangefate.
Number 6. Night Creeper. Born a metahuman, Kurt Ryder, a combination of Nightcrawler and Creeper, has a pretty vague past up until his time as an acrobat in the circus. He worked there for a while until he was kicked out for looking and smelling too freakish, and for a while he had nowhere to go. Fast forward a little bit, we see Kurt join the New Blood alongside a bunch of other amazing combinations of heroes and mutants, and eventually this team turned into the Justice League X-Men with Kurt as a founding member. Generally just used as comic relief, this character didn't really have many serious stories until he had to get real for a second with Angel Hawk, as both of them had fallen in love with a team member and it was causing some serious problems for everyone. Skip ahead once again to the Armageddon agenda and we see Night Creeper end up in jail alongside many other meta mutants, held there by none other than the JLA. Number 4. Moonwing. Before becoming Moonwing, a combination of Moon Knight and Nightwing, Dick Grayson was an acrobat in a local circus until he was forced to leave due to his rather aggressive split personality known as Mark Spector. This scared a lot of people away from him, but not Bruce Wayne, a man who saw nothing but potential in the young boy who brought him in as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now known as Moonwing, Dick had an outlet for his aggressive side, and this actually helped him reconcile with this part of him, and he was able to live a rather normal life from there on out. While Dick went to college, his protege Jason Todd took up the mantle for a while. However, he was killed on a mission and Dick donned the costume once more because he felt really guilty about Jason's death. Now unknown to him, Jason's body was recovered by Hydra, who grafted cybernetic body parts onto Jason and brought him back to life as Deathlock. Deathlock then ambushed Moonwing while he was on a mission for S.H.I.E.L.D. and tried to kill his former mentor, who he blamed for his new robotic body. Moonwing was then forced to battle Deathlock, resulting in Jason's death for real this time, at his own hands.
Number 3. Supermutant. Supermutant is the amalgamation of Marvel's mutant time traveler Bishop, Lucas Bishop, and DC's Man of Steel, and once their Man of Tomorrow, Superman, Kal-El, or Clark Kent if you prefer. He was another creation of Dr. Strangefate's brought together in his last moments of desperation. Personally, I think these two together would be insanely OP, because you've got the energy absorption and conversion powers of Bishop, and just the all-around invulnerability, strength, speed, and agility of Superman. That sounds pretty unstoppable to me. Of course, as this character only appeared briefly, we didn't really get to see what he was fully capable of. Sad face. Number 2. Green Phoenix. Green Phoenix is another Amalgam character who was made during the showdown between Dr. Strangefate and Access. She is the amalgamation of DC's Martian Manhunter and Marvel's Jean Grey as Phoenix. We really don't get to see much of her in action, but being that she's a combination of such powerhouse characters, it's definitely heavily implied that the Green Phoenix would kick a lot of butt had she continued to exist. With the powers of the Phoenix, Jean, and Martian Manhunter, I'd imagine in most cases she'd be unstoppable. However, before we could find out just how unstoppable, Dr. Strangefate was defeated and Green Phoenix's counterparts were separated. So, just returning to Martian Manhunter and Jean Grey. And it's because we didn't really get to see that much of her that I have decided, despite Green Phoenix in theory probably being one of the most powerful characters in the Amalgam universe to hand off our #1 spot to a character that we do get to see a lot more of in the Amalgam universe.
And at 10, Green Skull. Green Skull, aka Lex Luthor, is the amalgam of Marvel's Red Skull and DC Comics' Lex Luthor. In the 1940s, Lex Luthor is a renowned entrepreneur and philanthropist who resides in Metropolis. He was married to Lois Lane, a war correspondent whom he met at a charity ball. Widely considered to be a model citizen and contributor to society, Luthor is also personal friends with high-ranking political figures such as Winston Churchill and President Franklin Roosevelt. Only Super Soldier, a World War II era superhero created by the US government, sees right through this facade and knows that Luthor is actually a corrupt war profiteer who is aiding the Germans in an effort to prolong the war. While looking into the secret government project that created the Super Soldier, Luthor learns of an alien spacecraft that landed in Kansas and carried a radioactive ore known as Green K, or the Kansas Lode. In 1938, he arranges for German scientists to steal the ship and its cargo for him, observing that the green meteorite actually weakened the Super Soldier. Luthor creates a serum for it, which he then injects himself with. The result greatly expands his own lifespan, but turns him into the Green Skull. So in essence, he tried to make himself walking kryptonite and then got boned because of it. Makes sense. And at 9, Brother Brood. Brother Brood is the leader of the Cult of Brood, a religious order built around a parasitic alien race. His thirst for power brought him into conflict with the X-Patrol, a combination of the X-Men and Doom Patrol. Brother Brood is an amalgamation of Brother Blood and the Brood race of aliens from Marvel Comics. This enigmatic cult leader was infected with an egg of a Brood Queen, and experienced a spiritual awakening, coming to believe that becoming one with the Brood was the only truth. Okay. The spawns he creates are called broodlings, and they're actually this guy's only family, and I don't know if that's more sad or creepy. He was first introduced in Exciting X-Patrol #1 in 1997, but honestly, this guy is more creepy than powerful, but he has a wicked looking suit. And that suit, along with the whole being part alien cult leader thing, is the reason he's on this list. And at 8, Nuke. Schooled since childhood in the arts of death, young Bane Simpson was raised in the cruel confines of a Hydra fortress known as Santa Prisca to become the perfect killer. When Green Skull, the supreme Hydra, needed a test subject for the new super steroid Venom, he knew that the soulless Simpson was the perfect choice. Outfitted with wrist-mounted Venom injectors, Nuke gained the ability to artificially increase his speed and strength to become an unstoppable murdering machine. All he needs to do is inject himself. He is a combination of Bane from DC and Nuke from the Marvel Universe. I was hoping for a Venomized Bane when I was looking at this, cause like, you know, Venom, but with a freaking Hydra symbol on his chest, this guy is still menacing as hell. A young Nuke may actually have been the Hydra agent responsible for murdering Bruce Wayne's parents as well. Since in Istanbul, Turkey, young Bruce Wayne watched in horror as his 2 secret agent parents were ruthlessly assassinated by a faceless terrorist. The tragedy then left young Bruce Wayne orphaned and obsessed with fighting terrorism, setting the stage for his future career as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Was it Nuke? Who knows?
Number 6. Firebird. Firebird is the amalgamation of Marvel's Jean Grey, once known as the X-Men's Marvel Girl, and DC's Fire, who can turn her body into a living green flame and emits blasts of fire. Firebird made her first appearance in JLX issue #1, and in case you didn't know, the JLX is actually a combination of the Justice League and the X-Men put together. Firebird was one of the members of the team and has psychokinetic flame powers. In other words, she is truly an amalgamation of the 2 characters that were combined to create her. Firebird's name is Beatriz Grey, also a combination of Beatriz da Costa and Jean Grey. Amalgamation all around. Number 5. Emerald Eye. Emerald Eye was a short-lived amalgam character who appeared during Doctor Strangefate's last stand to try and protect and preserve the amalgam universe. In fighting the heroes of both Marvel and DC's world as well as Access, he brought together more amalgamations, including an amalgamation seemingly of Marvel's X-Men leader Cyclops and DC's JLA member Green Lantern. Although based on the name of this character, it also seems likely that some influence could come from another Green Lantern based character, or weapon really, the disembodied eye of Ekron, known as the Emerald Eye of Ekron, which is a powerful weapon that emits a green plasma beam, and made its first appearance in DC Comics back in 1967 in Adventure Comics issue 352. Number 4. Silver Racer. The Silver Racer is the amalgamation of Marvel's Silver Surfer and DC's Black Racer. He is both the Asgardian avatar of death and also possesses the power cosmic, or rather the ability to manipulate cosmic energy. So basically exactly the power cosmic. Sadly, he would go on to become depowered in the Amalgam universe as Dr. Doomsday stole his power from him. However, at the peak of his power, being a combination of both of these crazy strong characters from the big two, he was still likely one of the most powerful Amalgam characters that we'd seen. Honestly, any Silver Surfer amalgamation is going to be pretty nuts, and then imagine combining him with someone equally OP, if not more OP, like the Black Racer, the Agent of Death from the DC universe. Also, he's got skis, which is really the most powerful. If you're a hero and you have skis, I'm just saying.
Getting close to the end, into number 3, Thanoside. First appearing in Bullets and Bracelets number 1 in 1996, Thanoside is the ruler of Apocalypse, and his goal is to annihilate all of the universe except for Apocalypse, and to win the favor of Lady Death by finding the ultimate anti-life nullifier. He also teamed up with Dr. Doomsday during the events of Secret Crisis to destroy the universe, because you know, of course he did. Thanoside is obviously a combination of both Thanos and Darkseid, and his goals make that fairly evident. However, this guy also has immortality, invulnerability, and superhuman strength. I didn't realize that immortality and invulnerability were different, but I mean, like, I guess invulnerability means that you can't really get injured, whereas immortality means you can't die, but you can't really have invulnerability without immortality, right? I don't know. What are the semantics of comic book powers anyway? Or was this wiki page too small so they needed to end up adding stuff to make it longer? So I don't know. Okay, who cares though? It's a comic, and it's a universe that no one really talks about anymore. Unfortunately. I love this universe. Penultimately, in at number 2, Galactiac. A combination of Brainiac and Galactus, the seemingly ageless entity known as Galactiac is the ultimate synthesis of mind and machine. He traverses the farthest reaches of space, draining the lifeblood of planets in order to recharge his energy cells, but Galactiac does not completely obliterate the planets that he attacks. Rather, he always miniaturizes a section of each planet to preserve it and study, but only a section. Ben Grimm from the Challengers of the Fantastic attempted to destroy Galactiac's machinery, but Grimm's actions merely succeeded in gaining his attention and arousing his wrath. Galactiac used his cosmic powers to transform Grimm into the monstrous four-armed thing, a mindless minion devoted entirely to Galactiac. Meanwhile, someone else had transported Johnny Stormtrooper into the body of Galactiac in an attempt to destroy the planet-devouring menace from within. His first appearance was in the Challengers of the Fantastic number 1 in 1997, and honestly, this is one of the scariest beings in the Amalgam universe. Brainiac and Galactus are so powerful on their own, but combined? Oh sweet heaven. I'll be seeing you soon. Finally, into number 1, Kang the Time Conqueror. The amalgamation of Kang the Conqueror and the Time Traveler, also known as Kronos Tut, is a time traveler with ties to ancient Egypt. He has a tendency to go negative after being defeated as well, whatever that means. He also became a major enemy of the Legion of Galactic Guardians 2099 of Earth 12772. He traveled to Earth 9602 and attempted to turn Washington DC into ancient Egypt, but was defeated by the Challengers of the Fantastic. Kane once also tried to absorb Spider-Boy of Earth 9602, a nexus of all realities, to gain access to every reality and timeline. He hired the Frightful Five of Earth 97061 to destroy the Times Square generator of their reality and to distract their Legion of Galactic Guardians long enough for him to kidnap and displace Spider-Boy. However, Spider-Boy was saved because of the intervention of the time-traveling living lightning lad, but not before Kang was able to literally start pulling Spider-Man and Superboy apart, beginning to return them to their original, separate, individual lives. So with that kind of juice, you can certainly say that Kronos Tut is probably the most powerful Amalgam Universe villain. Being able to, in essence, separate the characters again without having to be literally DC or Marvel. Jesus. Starting us off in at number 10, Lobo the Duck. Lobo the Duck is strangely enough the combination of Lobo and Donald Duck. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, it's Howard the Duck, and was introduced in Lobo the Duck number 1 from 1997 and is present on Earth 9602, but in a timeline where the Amalgam heroes have died. Lobo the Duck is a fearless and strangely muscular, especially for a duck, anti-hero bounty hunter who, along with his shape-shifting canine sidekick Impossible Dog, is investigating the murders of several Amalgam Comics heroes. Lobo only agrees to find the murderers of these heroes if he gets paid up front though, but soon begins the investigation. Lobo fights his way through Gold Kidney Lady, Dr. Bongface, and various other supervillains before he realizes that the end of the world is about to begin, and only he can stop it. He has all of Lobo's powers and abilities, including immortality, super strength, and a mastery of basically every weapon. He also has a genius level intellect, a superhuman sense of smell, can track anyone or anything across galaxies, and is a master of Quack Fu. Yeah, I just wanted an excuse to mention this guy, but honestly, immortality makes him pretty damn powerful. And at 9, Pharaoh Man. Pharaoh Man is a combination of Colossus and Pharaoh Lad, and was introduced in X Patrol number 1, which is clearly a combination of X-Men and Doom Patrol. Peter and his twin Alexi were all each other had, since even their mother couldn't bear to look at their faces. That's not even a face a mother could love. The twins shared everything from the moment they were born, but one day while saving Alexi's life from an oncoming truck, Peter changed into living metal, stopping it, revealing to himself that he was actually a metamutant. But Alexi was unfortunately not. Alexi's growing resentment drove him away from his brother until eventually he left Peter alone. After this, Peter was recruited by Niles Cable, a mysterious traveler from the future, to join the X Patrol. In their first appearance in X Patrol number 1, Pharaoh Man and his metamutant teammates became involved in the siege of Latkovia against Dr. Doomsday, a combination of Dr. Doom and Doomsday, which already sounds like Bad News Bears. He has all the powers of Colossus but can change into this form at will, like Pharaoh Lad. And it's 7 X-Stroke. X-Stroke the Eliminator is an amalgamation of Marvel's Executioner and DC's Deathstroke, and is an enemy of the X-Patrol. X-Stroke manipulated Terra X into betraying the X-Patrol, and had Pharaoh Man brought to X-Stroke himself. However, Niles Cable and the rest of the X-Patrol found a way to rescue Pharaoh Man, and defeated X-Stroke, while Terra X used her metamutant powers to escape X-Stroke's wrath, and was chased to Zenosha by Shatter Starfire, who ended up being attacked by Broodlings loyal to Brother Brood, while Terra X became possessed by the Brood. Yeah, but considering how Deathstroke and Executioner are both powerful individuals in their own right, I'm sure you can guess why they're on this list, even if they don't have much story after being introduced in the exciting X Patrol number 1 in 1997. And it's 6 Hyena. Hyena, first introduced in Legends of the Dark Claw number 1 in 1966, is a combination of DC's Joker and Marvel's Sabretooth. He is the arch enemy of Darkclaw, a combination of DC's Batman and Marvel's Wolverine. His real name is Creed Harley Quinn. The Canadian government initiated the Weapon X project. Logan and Quinn of the Royal Canadian Armed Forces were both accepted as candidates for the project, along with 4 other volunteers. Logan's latent metamutant healing power kicks in though, which allows him to survive the adamantium crafting process. Creed survives as well, but becomes a remorseless killing machine, which is actually exactly what the project was hoping for. Creed's sanity does not fare well also, and he eventually goes rogue. Indestructible metal known as adamantium was bonded to Creed's skeleton, and he was given claws made of the same substance. Unlike Darkclaw, however, Creed was physically deformed as a result of the experiment because, he didn't have healing factors. But Project X also triggered a metamutant ability in Creed, who became known as Hyena. Hyena, also known as the Cackling Canine, will not stop his maniacal grinning until his arch nemesis Darkclaw is destroyed. And he has a gang called the Pack, which honestly I think is kinda cute. Still absolutely terrifying. It's the freaking Sabretooth and Joker! God. Halfway through into number 5, Dr. Doomsday. Dr. Doomsday, also known as Victor Von Doom, is the amalgam of Dr. Doom and Doomsday. I feel that's kind of obvious. A scientist who fused with an alien killing machine, Dr. Doomsday is one of the most dangerous villains alive. On more than one occasion, Dr. Doomsday has been mentioned as an ally to Thanoside, and is described by various heroes as someone close to evil incarnate. During the challenges of the Fantastic comic, Dr. Doomsday stole the powers of the Silver Racer to use as an attack on the challengers immediately after they had a battle with Galactiac. Dr. Doomsday returns to life every time he dies and becomes resistant or immune to what had killed him before. Dr. Doomsday possesses extreme physical strength. His other abilities include invulnerability to heat, cold, and injury, allowing him to survive on the most inhospitable worlds, as well as survive in the vacuum of space. Dr. Doomsday also possesses an inexhaustible stamina, which might be good for the ladies, but it seems like he's covered in little pricks instead. In at 4, Bizarnage. Bizarnage has got to be my new favorite amalgam villain now. I can't believe I didn't know this existed. A combination of Bizarro and Carnage, for crying out loud. Is there anything scarier? Introduced in Spider-Boy number 1 from 1996, Bizarnage was made through a botched experiment at Project Cadmus in an attempt to replicate alien DNA. The white goopy creature they created went crazy and began destroying everything and everyone in its way, as Carnage do. Then Spider-Boy arrived and battled him. Bizarnage wanted to be Spider-Boy, so tried to instantly kill him. But he was eventually defeated by getting tricked by Spider-Boy and sucked into an energy containment unit. This thing looks like if Anti-Venom was Carnage, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. This is such a bad character. I wish that there was more of him. I love him so much. I want this on a disc plate. I want this on my wall. I need it. There isn't much on him, but it's still super sexy, and honestly, I kinda wanna cosplay it now. I might, actually. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, White Witch. First appearing in Doctor Strange Fate number 1 from 1996, White Witch is a combination of Scarlet Witch and Zatanna. White Witch's origin is not completely known, but when she was introduced, she was acting as one of Doctor Strange Fate's aides. Fearing that access would divide the Amalgam universe back into its original 2 universes, Doctor Strange Fate decides to capture and exterminate him, so he has Mix mystically teleport his 3 agents into his sanctum, known as Arkham Tower. Strange Fate proceeded to explain to the 3 that Access was a greater threat than any of their previous foes, including Mephisatanus or Baron Wotan. Access managed to escape Skulk and Jade Nova by teleporting, but White Witch approached him from behind, pushed him to the ground, climbed on top of him, and with a kiss, he was knocked out. Then White Witch said that you shouldn't send a girl or a monster to do a woman's job. White Witch has all the powers of both Scarlet Witch and Zatanna, making it obvious why Doctor Strange Fate would want her as his aide. That's insane. And it can only be topped by 2 people.
Number 10. It's Wonder Woman and Storm. This is not the last time I'm going to use a character from the Amalgam universe, because this universe is awesome. A universe where the heroes and villains of the 2 comic book titans, Marvel Comics and DC Comics, finally meet. And as you probably guessed from the title of the video, some of these heroes fuse together. And thank the Lord they do, because we got frickin' Wonder Woman mixed with Aurora Monroe in her own comic book nonetheless. Princess Aurora of Themyscira, aka Amazon, could manipulate weather and fly while also still being incredibly skilled in hand-to-hand combat and having super strength and speed and all that good Wonder Woman stuff. She is a beast. Or I mean a storm. Wait, no, I mean an Amazonian. She's all 3, minus the hero beast. God, that was a bad joke. Look, could you imagine this in the theater though? I'm getting tingles. Number 9, Green Lantern and Bruce Wayne. Of all the Dark Knights recently introduced in Dark Knight's Metal, aside from their leader, the Dawnbreaker stands among the others as one of the most creative and possibly most terrifying combinations. This blending of Bruce Wayne and Green Lantern, while based on 2 heroes, is definitely not a good guy. After Bruce Wayne's tragic loss of his parents, the Green Lantern ring comes to him and grants him the powers of a Green Lantern. Now, if you know Batman, you'll know that he has likely one of the strongest wills on the earth. So strong, in fact, that it allows him to overpower the programming of the ring and do things Green Lanterns are not supposed to do, like using his monstrous hard-light constructs to kill criminals. Or, like, taking out the whole Green Lantern Corps in the Guardians of the Universe, I don't know, stuff like that. He is a crazy powerful version of Batman, and I think it would be really cool if someone could put him on the big screen in a sort of like superhero horror movie or something like that. Number 8, the Hulk and Wolverine. These 2 have been going at it since Wolverine was first introduced into the Marvel landscape. Their rivalry is legendary, and while the 2 have never been directly fused together, in July of 2017 we got a wholly original character that was basically a fusion. Clayton Cortez, or as he is better known, Weapon H, is a weapons experiment gone wrong, or if you ask me, gone incredibly right. He has the ability to transform into a massive, super strong Hulk, with all the benefits that entails, but he also has the incredible healing factor, bone claws, and adamantium skeleton of the Wolverine. This is an incredibly deadly combo, and it's hypothesized he could take out every living being on the earth. To be able to see this on the big screen would make me poop my pants or giggle with happiness. There's literally no in between there. It's one of the 2.
And it's 7, Dinah Prince. Dinah Prince, also known as Dinah of Themyscira, was first introduced in Bullets and Bracelets number 1 and is a combination of Wonder Woman and Elektra. While still young, Dinah left Themyscira to explore man's world, leaving behind her family and her adopted sister Ororo. On her travels, she worked for the King of Wakanda, who gifted her adamantium bracelets. However, she later left to set up her own freelancing business in the US. There she met Trevor Castle and the 2 got married. At least, they were married until their infant son Ryan was mysteriously killed and the emotional toll was too much. Both of them blamed themselves for not being able to save their son. They seemed to never plan on meeting again. However, Monarch brought the 2 together again and pitted them against Thanos, a combination of Thanos and Darkseid. Yeah, he had perceived the Lord of Apocalypse was responsible for the fate of their son, but she discovered that Ryan was not dead, merely displaced in time, and had grown up to become Kanto. Knowing that their son was still alive, Dinah and Trevor seem to restart their relationship. Dinah has the divine empowerment from Wonder Woman, giving her superhuman strength and durability, as well as a mastery over archery and hand-to-hand combat. Halfway through and in number 5, Robert Bruce Banner. Robert Bruce Banner is the combination of Bruce Banner and understandably Solomon Grundy, and was first introduced in Doctor Strange Fate number 1 as one of his aides. Bruce Banner was a scientist experimenting with radiation, when an experiment he was working on went horribly wrong. However, it fused him with the elemental entity known as Solomon Grundy. The fusion between Banner and Grundy became only known as the Skulk, and after a confrontation with Doctor Strange Fate, the Doc showed Skulk that he could keep him in his human form with use of magic. So in an effort to stay human, or at least be able to become human again, Skulk agreed to work as an agent for Doctor Strange Fate in return for the Doc keeping him in his human form, for most of the time. Skulk possesses all the powers and abilities of both Solomon Grundy and Hulk, and thanks to Doctor Strange Fate, Banner can shapeshift between his human form and his Skulk form at will, and since he possessed the same powers as Grundy, when he dies, he's reborn. But that's not even the craziest thing in this universe. And in 4, Blaze Allen. Speed Demon, first introduced in Speed Demon number 1, is, aside from what you might have called your ex to your girlfriends, a combination of Barry Allen and Johnny Blaze. Blaze Allen was a circus daredevil who sold his soul to become the first Speed Demon. Yes, there are actually multiple Speed Demons. The demon component, Etrigan, was also formerly Jay Garrick, before the Night Spectre stole Jay's soul. You know, Jay Garrick. Earth 2 Flash. The Night Spectre approached Blaze and asked him to serve in his mission to collect souls from the most pure and most corrupt, which just seems weird to me, but okay, you do you. But Blaze Allen refused, so in an attempt to persuade him, at his wedding, Night Spectre stole Iris's soul. Blaze then accepted the bond, hoping to get Iris back, or at least ensure her safety. It didn't work. Speed Demon speaks only in rhymes, but is a speedster with a flaming skull head that can also breathe fire. Wally West, an amalgamation of Danny Ketch and obviously Wally West, was the next Speed Demon, who accepted the power in order to help his uncle Blaze get Iris back. It's funny, because in a couple of days I'm going on vacation and I'm making it my mission to try to convince at least one person to sell me their soul. Like, it's not actually gonna work, but I think it's gonna be funny if I can do it.
Number 3. Iron Man and Doom. After the events of Secret War, Victor Von Doom, who was God King of Battleworld, returned to the main Marvel Universe. But not as an evil Dr. Doom self. No, instead, he returned to eventually become the infamous Iron Man. He took on Iron Man's incredibly capable Model 51 Model Prime armor and combined it with both his aesthetic and his awesome cape, and used it to do battle with some bad guys and change the public opinion on him. He was both incredibly cool and incredibly powerful, using a combination of Iron Man-like abilities and tech alongside his sorcery talents. Now that Robert Downey Jr. is no longer Iron Man, there is sort of like a vacuum to fill that spot. It would make such a crazy awesome story if Doom was to jump in that place, creating conflict with all those who love Tony, and while I would hate it if they introduced Dr. Doom like that, at least we would be getting him at all. But I'll hold out for the Fantastic Four movie for that one though. Number 1. Batman and Superman with a little special sauce in there. The Dark Knight, the Man of Steel. They are the two finest heroes the world has ever known, and together, their combined might stands in the face of the greatest threats the world has ever known in World's Finest. In the extremely recent 4th issue, when facing a Neza-possessed Green Lantern, the two heroes realize that being possessed, Green Lantern's willpower must be weakened. Not enough for either of the heroes to oppose, but definitely enough for both of the heroes. Together, they both focus hard enough on drawing the ring to them, and it somehow actually works. It flies towards them, but instead of landing on only one of them, the ring fuses the two heroes together into one of the coolest things I have ever seen in my entire life. This Super Batman with a little bit of Green Lantern is able to take on the possessed Firestorm, Red Tornado, Wonder Girl, John Johns, Kid Flash, and Black Canary all by himself, and even fight Neza to almost defeat him before the fusion wore off. The look of this fusion alone was enough to make this spot, but the capability of them, done. Hands down, the best. Number 1. Number 1.